WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Banjul, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The national consultations on political parties charter in Mali resolved to appoint Army General Goïta as president and dissolve all political parties.
I undertake to transmit to the President of the Transition, the head of state, the recommendations adopted by your meeting. The government, for its part, will spare no effort to take the necessary measures to meet the people's expectations.
Amnesty International decries rising cases of rights violations in Benin and Côte d'Ivoire. Nigeria's main opposition People's Democratic Party at the crossroads as thousands of its members defect to the ruling APC. And in Ghana, President Mahama launches a health trust fund to tackle the country's growing chronic disease burden.
Estimates from our teaching hospitals reveal that the average annual cost of non-communicable disease treatment per patient averagely stands at approximately 53,000 Ghana cedis, and that's equivalent to about $3,300 annually.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and welcome to our listeners from across the sub-region. Newslink this hour begins in Mali, where the national phase of the consultations for the configuration of political parties concluded on Tuesday with radical recommendations. Key among them, the dissolution of all political parties and the appointment of Army Chief General Assimi Goïta as president of Mali for a renewable 5-year term. The deliberation, chaired by Malian Prime Minister General Abdoulaye Maïga, was attended by civil society, community leaders and Malians in the diaspora. Imoradet has more in this report.
After 2 days of intense deliberations, the national consultations on political parties charter ended in Bamako with radical recommendations on settling for politicians and executives of these parties who rejected the talks and announced a boycott. Recommendations emerging from these discussions include the outright dissolution of the parties. To create one, such a party will make a mandatory 100 million CFA francs deposit, comply with age requirements set between 25 and 75 for leaders, and have territorial representation. Also scrapped out the public funding of parties, the status of the opposition leader, and political nomadism. Jibril Toure, a local elected official from the Kita region, expressed satisfaction with the conclusions.
It wasn't dictated as many people believe. It was a purely democratic exercise. Given the disappointment this policy has caused the nation and the entire population, we can only express our views. Frankly, I identify with these recommendations.
Other specific recommendations that were not in the terms of reference include the installation of General Assimi Goïta as President of the Republic for a renewable 5-year term. Present at the ceremony, Prime Minister Abdoulaye Maïga reaffirmed the government's commitment to implementing the recommendations.
I undertake to transmit to the President of the Transition, the head of state, Army General Assimi Goïta, the recommendations adopted by your meeting. The government, for its part, will spare no effort on your authority in the cycle of the state to take the necessary measures to meet the people's expectations.
While these recommendations remain contested by political actors, the final report will be submitted to the transitional president, General Assimi Goïta, in the coming weeks.
A more with that report filed in by WADR's Bamako correspondent Ali Cham. Like many African countries, Senegal faces the threat of conflict from external forces. The latest report from the Timbuktu Institute highlights various factors contributing to this threat. In response to these dangers, young people from several organizations participated in a day-long national forum on peace and security in Dakar. The theme of the meeting was human rights during armed conflict. Augustine Coley attended the Tuesday event and now filed this report.
The objective of the forum is to raise awareness among young people about peace building and conflict prevention. This is an initiative by the Peace Academy in collaboration with other organizations, including Junior Chamber International. Gunnar Rafaelumal Afali, the Vice President of the Junior Chamber International, explains the details of the event.
The priority is to have discussion, an open discussion, to recognize that it is not normal. Conflict is never normal, and to also find the action, the solution, because maybe it will not be easy. It needs times, it needs resources, but I think the first step is to recognize and to come around the table and to talk.
Several training workshops have been launched to better equip participants from various regions of Senegal and beyond. Those benefiting from these trainings are acutely aware of the current urgency. Fatul Jama Yassin Fall is one of the participants in this educational gathering.
I've learned few things from here about the protection of human rights, and the protection with human rights is often linked with the protection of environment as well. So I've learned quite a thing that could help me in my environment journey.
Additionally, the organizers of this National Peace Forum plan to introduce a program called Peace Takers 221. This initiative aims to train peace ambassadors across all 14 regions of Senegal.
A report by WADR's Augustine Coley. Let's now bring you some reports on rights violations in two countries of West Africa published by Amnesty International. First, in Côte d'Ivoire, the rights organization denounces human rights violations which point to a worrying restriction on the right to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. In its 2024-2025 report, the organization highlights a significant hardening of the political climate just months before the presidential election. Christopher Ticho tells us.
According to Amnesty International, the political climate in Côte d'Ivoire is hardening 6 months before the presidential election. The human rights organization denounces heightened tensions accompanied by tightening restrictions on public freedoms. The international organization particularly denounces repressive legislative provisions that continue to hamper freedom of expression and assembly. It cited, among other things, Article 197 and 199 of the Côte d'Ivoire Penal Code, which provide for imprisonment for anyone organizing or participating in an unregistered demonstration. As an example, Amnesty International cited the September 2024 crackdown on the peaceful march banned by the authorities in Abidjan. This demonstration, initiated by the Agir pour le Peuple movement to protest the high cost of living and forced evictions, led to the arrest of around 20 people. Furthermore, the NGO expresses its deep concern about a new ordinance regulating the activities of civil society organizations, which grants the state control over organizations, including dissolution by decree, without any appeal mechanism. It sees this as a serious threat to the independence of non-profit organizations. Amnesty International also deploys the persistent obstructions of justice, particularly due to the continued applications of the 2018 Amnesty Law, which prevents the prosecution of many individuals involved in the 2011 post-election violence. In conclusion, Amnesty International urges the Ivorian authorities to undertake urgent structural reforms to guarantee fundamental rights, strengthen the rule of law, and ensure better protection for the most vulnerable populations.
Christopher Ticho reporting there. Similarly, in Benin, Amnesty International has pointed to a rise in rights violations across the country. It said restrictions on freedom of expression, arrest of those critical of the ruling power, and harsh prison conditions are among the human rights violations denounced. It presented the report yesterday in Cotonou.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
As a reminder, we stream live on wadr.org and on Facebook, WADR English Service. As Nigeria counts down to its 2027 general elections, the country's political space is witnessing a sweeping wave of defections, largely from the opposition People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC). Recent defectors are Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori and his predecessor, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, the party's vice presidential candidate in the 2023 elections. The defections, now gaining momentum, are triggering a realignment of forces that could significantly impact the electoral outlook. From Abuja, Usman Umar reports.
Oborevwori and Okowa's switch has rattled the PDP's southern base and raised questions about internal cohesion within the opposition party. Kola Ologbodiyan, a former spokesperson for the PDP, said the defections are symptoms of a deeper problem within the party.
I have consistently said that the leadership of Ambassador Elias Udamagun will lead to the end of the People's Democratic Party. I have not departed from that position, and I will not depart from it.
The situation is not unique to Delta State in the South-South. In the north-central state of Benue, over 10,000 members of the PDP, including key stakeholders, recently decamped to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. The trend is mirrored in the National Assembly, where several PDP lawmakers have crossed over to the ruling party, citing unresolved leadership disputes and lack of strategic direction. Farouk Harun, an APC stalwart, sees the development as validation of the party's broader appeal.
I am sure even the main heads of the PDP will admit privately, some of them publicly, that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a master strategist. So we should see that Asiwaju Tinubu has a galvanizing political will and strategy.
Yet, not everyone in the APC, including former Deputy Senate President Senator Ovie Omoagege, is celebrating this wave of defections, warning it could create internal friction. As the political chessboard shifts ahead of the 2027 elections, analysts say the defection may benefit the APC in the short term, but could complicate internal party dynamics. They also deflate speculations that Nigeria could ever become a one-party state, but suggest that the PDP address its leadership crisis to confront a ruling party that has become more entrenched. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Away from Nigeria, President John Mahama has launched the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, known as Mahama Cares. The objective is to provide financial support for people living with chronic illnesses such as kidney failure, cancer, and heart conditions. Speaking at the launch on Tuesday, President Mahama described the initiative as a beacon of hope for thousands of Ghanaians facing long-term health challenges. WAD's Accra correspondent Nadir Tete reports.
The Ghana Medical Trust Fund, also branded as Mahama Cares, aims to tackle the country's growing chronic disease burden. Unveiled on Tuesday, April 29 in Accra, the initiative will provide financial support for specialist-level treatment of illnesses, including cancer, kidney failure, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and stroke. Fulfilling one of his 2024 campaign promises, President John Mahama said Ghana's health crisis can no longer be ignored, pledging 6 months of his salary to the fund.
Estimates from our teaching hospitals reveal that the average annual cost of non-communicable disease treatment per patient averagely stands at approximately 53,000 Ghana cedis annually. And that's equivalent to about $3,300. It is estimated that individuals diagnosed with chronic diseases face a 75% likelihood of falling into poverty within 5 years.
Speaking at the launch attended by key stakeholders, Ghana's Minister of Health, Kwabena Mintah Kando, described the initiative as long overdue.
Available estimates from the World Health Organization indicate that non-communicable diseases remain the leading deaths worldwide in 2020 to bear the heaviest burden due to cardiovascular diseases. In Ghana, the situation remains critical.
According to the 2022 Global Cancer Observatory, over 17,900 cancer-related deaths are recorded in Ghana annually. Also, chronic kidney disease affects more than 13% of the population, often without affordable treatment options. Cardiovascular diseases, driven by a 30% prevalence of hypertension, remain the leading cause of non-communicable disease deaths, with stroke alone contributing to 9% of all fatalities. For WDR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
Meanwhile, 3 Indian nationals have been arrested in Ghana on suspicion of operating a gold smuggling syndicate that authorities believe has taken tons of precious metal out of the country for over 10 years. The development was announced in a statement on Tuesday by the country's gold trading regulator. Gold Board explained that the 3 pleaded guilty at the arraignment and will remain in custody until a court hearing. A spokesperson for Ghana's gold regulator said the hearing is scheduled for May 12, 2025. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. National consultation on political parties charter in Mali resolved to appoint Army General Goita as president and dissolve all political parties. Amnesty International decries rising cases of rights violations in Benin and Côte d'Ivoire. Nigeria's main opposition People's Democratic Party at a crossroads as thousands of its members defect to the ruling APC. In Ghana, President Mahama launches a health trust fund to tackle the country's growing chronic disease burden. Still ahead in the news, American delegation arrives in Liberia for a medical survey to fight against prostate cancer. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. An American delegation has arrived in Monrovia to conduct a comprehensive feasibility study on the state of prostate cancer in the country. The mission, which involves extensive research at major hospitals, aims to identify the high prevalence of prostate cancer in Liberia. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker tells us more.
Dr. James Adam Saliv, head of the American delegation, emphasized the importance of collaborating with Liberian authorities to enhance the nation's health sector.
Number one, to bring cutting-edge biomedical and genetic research to Liberia and all of West Africa, and to establish the incidence of prostate cancer and better understand its pathophysiology. Number two, to enhance, further support, and develop current community outreach programs in prostate cancer and other diseases. To further establish surgical services and care with a specific focus on urological needs at JFK.
Also speaking, Matthew Wuluka from Morehouse School of Medicine in the United States also shared insights, stating